Have you ever wondered why you feel like you are your worst enemy? Like, no matter how much you want to change and you know that you should change, you just keep getting stuck. You feel like you're getting in your own way. And it is so frustrating because you know that you're meant for more. You know that you're capable of more. Well, I'm going to answer that in today's episode. And not only are you going to have more clarity than you've ever had on why you feel like you keep getting in your own way, I'm also going to coach you through a 7-step process on how to rewire any limiting belief, any negative mindset that is holding you back from creating the results in your life that you so badly want. I'm so excited for today's episode. Let's jump in. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. So if there is one thing that I love doing, it is helping people get to the root cause of why they're getting stuck, what their problem really is, and to move away from the band-aid quick fix solutions that might provide like short-term results. But then the issues always come back and you feel even more frustrated and you're relying on willpower and it just doesn't work. And there's a reason why it doesn't work. Like if you think of a lawn that has a bunch of weed growing on it, if you just keep mowing the lawnmower and you don't rip out the roots, it's going to keep growing and you're going to be so frustrated. So yes, sometimes it does take a little bit more time and effort to rip the roots out. But once you've done it, you don't have to keep doing it and doing it over and over again. So today, I'm coaching one of my listeners on the topic of mindset. There's a few different areas that I love to coach on inside Food Freedom Academy: how to learn how to listen to your body, how to navigate emotional eating and how to feel your emotions without turning to food, how to change your habits. But one of the things that I love talking about the most is mindset and how to change your thoughts, because your thoughts drive everything that you do, because your thoughts, they will create an emotion. So for example, you can have a thought that today is going to be a great day and you're going to feel excited. You're going to feel optimistic. You're going to feel happy. And so you're going to take actions from that place of optimism, which are more likely going to create a positive environment for you for the day. So your thoughts can literally transform the way you experience a day. But if you start a day off with today is going to be awful, I'm going to have such a bad day, then you're going to feel anxious, you're probably going to feel defeated, you're going to feel hopeless. And so what kind of actions do you think that you're going to take out from those emotions? Probably very negative, defeatist actions. And that is just going to confirm your belief that today was a bad day. See, I knew it was going to be a bad day and it was a bad day. And so we cannot underestimate how powerful our thoughts are. And you're going to hear that in today's coaching session, because what started off as a question about how to get more movement in, how to get more exercise in, really morphed into something else because we were able to see what is really holding Erica back from creating new habits and sticking to them, because this is something that she has been struggling with her entire life. So me giving her a workout plan or telling her what exercises to do or how to do them, it's not going to fix anything, because there's a reason why she's having such a hard time staying consistent with them. And if you're struggling with nutrition or exercise or any self-care, health promoting habits, maybe you're not consistent with it, maybe you don't want to do it, maybe you keep self-sabotaging, there's a reason why. And another meal plan or exercise routine is not going to address it. But this episode is. So I'm going to play that coaching session with Erica for you.
Basically trying to get out of my own head, and finding excuses on why I can't or shouldn't do something compared to just getting up and doing it and how to be like more consistent with that. Mindset for me is one of the hardest things that I am working
Okay. So let me make sure that I have this clear. So you mentioned getting out of my own head, stop making excuses for why you should or shouldn't do something. And then you mentioned one more piece. You said mindset is the hardest piece for me, correct?
on. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you think that I should know in terms of when you say getting out of my own head, what does that internal dialogue sound for you and in which context?
So a lot of it is a lot of like decision fatigue. So we've been really slow at work. So by the time I get home, I'm just exhausted. And I am not a morning person. I have tried several times to get up earlier and try to get like a workout in before work. And that is not me. I have come to the conclusion that will never be me, at
Hmm.
least in the near future. So it's finding that way to push through and actually work out at night.
Okay. Push through and work out at night. So, can you tell me more so that I can understand your story and your background a little bit more about your history when it comes to your relationship with food, with your body, with exercise?
Yeah, so it's been especially, I've been overweight my whole life. But in 2012, my dad passed away. I gained weight then. I lost a little bit, got married. My mom passed away 2 months after I had gotten married. 2019 came around. My husband and I got divorced. And then his partner now is unexpected on who he chose and got married to. And all of that kind of plays a part with my head because one of them would tell me, well, you're just spending too much time in the gym. And everybody else has given me issues from that to where now, even doing a workout, I feel like I'm in the wrong for it.
Okay. Spending too much time in the gym and feeling like when you're working out, you're in the wrong for it.
Hmm.
Can you tell me more about that? Why do you feel that way?
I was just always told, like, well, why are you doing it this way? Like, why are you spending so much time at the gym? And it wasn't, I was spending that much time, maybe an hour a day. But it was, I was not then spending time with the friends that I thought I had.
Okay. And would you say that this question on mindset of feeling like you're getting in your own way and making excuses is more in the context of exercise and moving your body right now, or does it apply to eating or any other self-care habits?
Eating is still a little bit of a problem. However, I am working with my doctor with medication to kind of help me. So that's gotten better, but I still have obstacles with the food, especially when I am overwhelmed.
With food, especially when you're overwhelmed.
Yes. And that's what like I've been noticing more and more.
Okay, gotcha. So, the information that I've gathered so far is that the mental piece, when it comes to exercise, it's a block because you've heard a lot of conflicting information, conflicting advice. People are telling you you're spending too much time in the gym. And as a result, you're almost like never tuning in to what feels right for you and being able to trust yourself. And it's always dependent on, okay, what is the right way to do it? What is the quote unquote, like, what should I be doing? Correct?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And then on the food side, there's you're taking medication and you're addressing that piece. But have you ever done any work to address the root cause of why do I keep turning to food when I'm overwhelmed instead of just like, let's take the medication and hope that this fixes it, but actually getting to the root cause of it?
I've been working with a therapist.
Okay.
So I see her once a month and like I'll bring my notes in from during the month on what was going on. And she is more of a food specialist
Mm,
kind of therapist. So I'm digging into that root, but I'm also having the medication to kind of help me as I'm learning how to refine my cues, figuring out what foods I like the best, especially like the healthier ones, and trying to figure out what to swap for certain things
mm.
to where I'm not depriving myself.
Okay, perfect. So we're gonna spend more time on the exercise and mindset piece,
Mhm.
if that's okay, because I feel like that is really the piece that we want to address today. Sounds good?
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds perfect.
So can you tell me what your current lifestyle around moving your body looks like? Because whenever I'm coaching someone, I always like to know two things, which is where you're starting and where you want to go. Because if, I'm talking to someone who doesn't move their body at all, the way that I'm going to coach them is going to be very different from someone who's already moving their body semi consistently. And there is not one right or one wrong way to start, but really making sure that whoever you're working with is coaching you from where you're at is super, super important. So, right now, what does that look like for you?
Um, so I have a very sedentary job that I don't get up very much from. I average about 3,000, 4,000 steps a day right now. And a lot of that is like when I get home from work, I'll get up and do like random things around the house, like cleaning up dishes, vacuuming. I will do those to get some of my steps and movement in, but I haven't been able to get to the let's work out for 15, 20 minutes, let's do a video, or let's go take a walk. I'm still not, I make excuses because I don't like the way that I look, especially like going outside for a walk. Like I don't want anybody else to see me.
Okay. And that can be such a big barrier because when you're looking at life through other people's lenses, it's really hard to like be in your body and to feel what it feels like to move your body and do these things that are really beneficial and that make you feel good. So, you mentioned I don't get up very much at my job. It is a sedentary job. So I'm going to start there because, of course, it can be really hard. At the end of the day, you're exhausted. You've barely moved your body. So that actually tends to contribute to feeling even more exhausted. And then to try to kind of almost force yourself to do like a 15-minute long exercise video, it might not seem like a lot, but it is a really big jump. And so it's really easy to make excuses. So I know that you mentioned wanting to learn how to change your mindset. And when I'm working with clients inside Food Freedom Academy, one of my favorite things to talk about and to teach on is how to change your habits. And most importantly, how to develop any habit so that it's consistent. Because one of the biggest mistakes that 99% of people make, especially if you have any kind of history with struggling with food or with exercise, is to try to jump too quickly, to try to go from 0 to 100. And you might not think that that's what it feels like to go from 0 to 100, but if you're not really moving your body and you're very sedentary, then to try to jump too quickly is going to be very overwhelming for your nervous system. So, if we were to start at your job, how much time do you have, or is it possible for you to take a few, or let's just start with one, like take one walk or get some movement in while you're at work?
What do you mean by like one walk?
Okay. So, for example, I work from home. I have
Mhm.
a lot more flexibility when it comes to the things that I want to do. Because I have scoliosis and I live with a lot of chronic back pain, for me to be sitting all day is just not an option because I will be in so much pain by the end of the day. So before I go for lunch, before I have my lunch, it's part of my routine, quote unquote routine, to go for like a 5 to 10 minute walk right before so that it's like, okay, This is called habit stacking. Have you ever heard that term before?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
I have.
So it's taking something that you already do, that is already in your day, that is already semi-natural, and then attaching something else before or after or even during to it. So for me, I'll go for a walk right before lunch, and then I'll get home and I will eat my lunch. And then mid-afternoon, between like 2:30 to 3, which is usually when I have my snack, I'll go for a walk right before or right after as well. So that's what I mean by, is there any pockets of time where you could either before or after implement like a 5-minute walk?
Yeah, I could probably do something like around our parking lot. Just kind of take a lap or so around the parking lot or two,
Hmm.
uh, to get to like that 5 minutes. It's a very small building that
Yeah.
it's here. So it's not even like I can take a small walk like around the office. Like it's not very big.
Yeah. So when you think about maybe implementing like a 5-minute walk, even just around the parking lot, or even just going to pick up something or whatever it might look like for you, how does that make you feel? And does that seem doable and realistic?
It does seem doable and realistic, especially when I stay at the office for lunch and I don't run errands. That seems more doable, to kind of get up and do that and then go eat.
Perfect. Is there any voice in your head that right now is going, yeah, but like any objections, any resistance that's coming up for you?
The only thing I can think of is like the weather, but and I live just outside of Chicago, so that would be a concern, but nothing that I couldn't handle. Or if I had to like just walk up and down the stairs or something a couple times, I could probably do that. Um, but just getting into that habit of just a little bit of movement before lunch.
Yes, and I love that you said that because this is actually one of the pieces that I teach in my habit blueprint, and it's a contingency plan. And so that means if something happens that gets in the way of me being able to do that. So, for example, for me, there are some mornings where I'm not able, I have a meeting, I have a call, and it goes right into lunch. And so I'm not able to go for my walk before. If that happens, I'll go after. If it's raining, I personally have a walking pad, so I'll walk on my walking pad, or most of the time I'll just suck it up and bring my umbrella and walk in the rain. But for you, what's what's the most important is actually not going for the walk itself, but it's getting in the habit of taking that action. So if there are those days where it's raining and your brain is going, well, I just won't go for a walk. What we really want to get out of is the all or nothing mindset, right?
Right.
Either I do it or I don't do it. One of the biggest, like the most effective thing that you can do, and I hope that all the listeners are writing this down as well, is to allow yourself and get used to living in the gray, which means not in the black and white, the all or nothing, because it's one of the biggest barriers to staying consistent with something. I know for me, when I used to have this very, very rigid and like obsessive mindset around exercise, it didn't count if it wasn't a certain amount of minutes or if I didn't burn a certain amount of calories. And so, of course, on those days where I was exhausted and I could not possibly see myself doing like a 15 to 30-minute workout, I would just say, well, I'm not going to do it at all because I really don't want to do a 15-minute workout. But now that I've really allowed myself to be fluid with my mindset and move out of that all or nothing mindset, there are some mornings where I'm like, you know what? I really don't feel like doing like a hard hitting, sweaty workout, but I am someone who moves my body consistently. And that's another piece is having this identity, right? So having this identity of I am someone who moves my body consistently, that it doesn't say I'm someone who exercises every single day. I'm not someone who works out obsessively every single day. I'm simply someone who moves my body. And so that could look like stretching, going for a walk. It could look like doing weights or like a real hard hitting workout on those days where I feel good and want to do it. But when you can allow yourself to be fluid with the definition of moving your body, then you can give yourself grace. And do you ever feel like you set a goal for yourself to move your body in a certain way, and then when you don't do it, you feel like you failed yourself?
All the time.
Yeah. And how does that feel?
I feel like I'm just more of a failure, that I can't keep promises to myself, that I'm just never going to get to where I want to be.
And this is such a common mindset. And what's really like counterintuitive when it comes to learning how to be consistent with any habit is that your mindset is everything. And we believe that if we put enough pressure on ourselves, if we're hard enough on ourselves and we beat ourselves up, then we're more likely to achieve our goals. We're more likely to be motivated and disciplined and follow through on it. But actually, what tends to happen is that every time that you literally set yourself up for failure, because maybe you set a goal that you deem is reasonable, but it may be not realistic for where you're at. So then you set this goal that might be just a little bit too big, which is really setting yourself up for success, for failure. And then when it does happen, you feel like a failure. And then the internal dialogue probably sounds a little bit like, see, there you did it again. You set a goal that you didn't follow through on. You cannot stick to anything. Every time you try to do it, you fail. Does it sound a little bit like that inner dialogue?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then every time that you tell yourself that, your subconscious mind, it just takes in whatever information you give it, right? And so if you give them that information, if you give your subconscious mind that information and that inner dialogue every day, then it's going to take it and it's going to say, well, that's who I am. So now from this point on, even if you set a goal with the best of intentions on a conscious level, like your logical mind is like, this seems easy, right? 15-minute walk. It's easy. It's doable. Your subconscious mind has absorbed the mentality and the belief that you can't stick to anything, that you're a failure. And so it is perpetuating. It's like this, what is it called? I forget the word right now, but it's this prophecy that you're really creating for yourself because you believe that you're not going to stick to anything. And so I want you to imagine two jars, okay? So, and this is really where we're hitting on the mindset piece. So everything that we tell ourselves and every single piece of the way that we function is built on beliefs that we hold about ourselves. And a belief is not a universal truth. A belief is simply something that you've told yourself enough times that it has become your truth. And if we really look at the premise of a belief, every belief is a lie, because no matter what, a belief, not everyone will agree on it. So you might think right now that the belief that the sky is blue is a fact and is a truth. Everyone can agree that the sky is blue. But that's actually not true, because right now I'm looking at the sky and it's gray. And at night, the sky is black. And so that's not actually true. But if I were to tell you, is it true that the sky is blue? Would you say yes or no?
I would have said yes.
Right?
Before you said at night it's black, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of true.
Yeah. And so how many times have you stopped and questioned your beliefs? Questioned the things that you tell yourself on a daily basis?
I have not ever, I don't think.
Right. And so that is at the core of it, because I could give you all of the advice in the world on how to change your habits. I could give you all of the knowledge in the world on nutrition. And if we really look at our society as a whole, there is no shortage of information on workout ideas, ways to eat, nutrition information. Like the information is there. Everyone has access to it. So why are so many people struggling to change? And it's because no one is looking at the thing that truly matters, which is the beliefs that they hold about themselves. And so whenever you're noticing resistance around any area of your life, and this is something that I'm constantly working on myself too, because I've achieved a lot of things. I've managed to heal my relationship with food and exercise, and that took a lot of belief work. But whatever you go after, whatever new goal you go after, for example, as I'm building my business and I'm taking a lot of risks, if I don't examine the beliefs that I hold about myself, and most of the time we don't know what they are until we stop and do the work, then I will constantly be hitting roadblocks because I will stop myself, because our beliefs, what they do is they're meant to keep us safe. They are meant to keep us in our comfort zone. And a lot of the time, our comfort zone is not comfortable, but it is what we know. So I'm going to pause right here before we keep going. And I want to know what is coming up for you. And do you have any questions about anything that I just said?
What is coming up for me? I have a work trip in July, I think it is. Um, and I haven't seen these people since last July, like in person, besides like just face to face. So I want to have a better mindset because, like last year, it was like I'm the one that's always falling behind because we walked everywhere and just the heat and me in general. So I want to just be better than I was last year at this event.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then question wise, um, when you say like challenge your beliefs or question, are there certain like questions you would ask yourself?
Yes. Okay. This is where we get into the meat of it. And this is actually a process that I teach inside the program, but I'm going to give you an outline. Okay. And this is something that it's not the kind of thing that you do it once and it's one and done. Because think of how long you've been holding on. Let's use an example of one belief that is a driving belief for you, which means it's a core belief. It is always kind of running in the background. So when I'm working with clients, I'll give you some example of core beliefs that a lot of the members come in with. So if you've been dieting or struggling with your body or with food for over 5 years, then there's a lot of beliefs around I'm a failure. Everyone is better than me. I can't stick to anything. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. Like those are like driving negative beliefs that affect many of your behaviors. So if we had to choose one of your beliefs that you could look and you can say, this is a belief that has been kind of keeping me prisoner for a really, really long time, and I want to change this belief about myself, what would it be?
Um, I just had it in my head. Probably that I, how do I phrase this? Um, that my best is never good enough.
Okay. My best is never good enough. Okay, that is, I won't say it's a great belief, but it's a great belief to work through. Okay, so the first step to changing your beliefs is to identify what it is. Okay, and a good way to identify what is kind of a core belief that is keeping you stuck is to look at where in your life you're getting results that you don't want to getting results that aren't the kind of results that you want to create, or places in your life that you keep getting stuck. Okay, because a lot of people can feel that like, oh, I keep getting stuck here and I don't know why. Like it literally feels like you're like binded or like you're hitting against a wall. So you stop and you ask yourself, okay, I keep experiencing this. No matter how much I learn, no matter how much I want to change, I keep getting stuck and I don't know why. So then you want to ask yourself, okay, what is a thought that I keep having when it comes to this scenario? And every time that you think that you found your belief, ask yourself, try to go like an onion, peel a little bit deeper, peel a little bit deeper. And so you got really to the core, which is what is it? My best is never good enough, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is you identify that belief. Now, the second step that you want to take is you want to ask yourself, is this true 100% of the time? Because when we have a belief, we generalize. So if we hold on to this belief, so let's say we have this belief that's my best is never good enough. Then what happens is your brain takes it on and it sees it as the truth. And so any information or any situation in your life that comes in or that happens that does not vibe with this belief is going to be deleted, distorted, or just completely disregarded because that's not the belief that we hold. So if we were to use another example, the belief that I'm a failure, if someone believes they're a failure, every success that they've had will just go right above their head. So I will work with a lot of clients who are like really successful in the sense that they're really great moms, really great wives, or they're really good at their job, really have a great career, but they have this driving belief that they're a failure. And so all of these other areas of their lives where they are successful is just deleted from their mind. So if we go back to those two jars that I was talking about, there's this old belief, which is even my best is never good enough. And so whenever something happens that agrees with this belief, a piece of evidence gets dropped into this jar. And so this jar is hella heavy at this point because you are starting to look for evidence that is aligned with this belief. And so this new belief that in your case, if we were to try to find a new belief that is more positive, that is more empowering, what might it be?
Mm. I'm doing the best with the resources I have.
Okay. So what's really important when you find a new belief, which is called reframing, is that it needs to feel true for you. Because the problem with affirmations, I love affirmations. They're really powerful. But
Mhm.
when affirmations feel false to you and you feel like you're trying to convince yourself that it's true, you almost feel like you're gaslighting yourself. And then you get angry because you're like, I'm enough, I'm enough, I'm enough. But your subconscious is like, no, you're not. And so it feels like this internal battle. So when you're coming up with this new belief, it needs to feel true for you. And whenever I'm working with clients, I want you to imagine like if you're trying on a bunch of different shirts to see which ones fit, which ones feel good. It might not be the first one that you try on that feels good. You might have to try on a few one to see, okay, which one doesn't create this sense of resistance for my nervous system? Which one doesn't feel like I'm like gaslighting myself, basically? So I'm doing the best that I can with the resources I have. How does that feel for you when you say it?
It feels better. Um, and like I know I can do it. It's just still more of not convincing, but finding those scenarios where no, I am doing a good job and kind of just remembering those.
Okay, so that's great. And we're going to get to that. So we skipped a few steps when we went into this new
Yeah.
belief. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this new belief is right now that jar is empty, right? Like you probably can't even think of any scenario where you can be like, yep, I was doing the best I can with the resources I had because it just went right over your head because that wasn't your belief. And so why would you even start noticing that? So the second step was to ask yourself, is this true 100% of the time? So is it true? Can you find a time in your life where you were doing, you did the best that you could with the resources that you had?
Yes.
Okay, what was it?
The last time I tried, or the last time I did lose some weight, um, I was able to do it and keep it off. And then just life happened, and the people that I was around was more negative as well.
Mm,
So I couldn't hear like those inside voices where they were like, "No, you actually are doing good." It was just all that negativity around.
yeah. So your higher self, if you like really take the time to slow down and get quiet, that's when you start hearing that and you connect to your intuition and that piece of you that is who you really are meant to be. That voice is kind. That voice is compassionate because that's your highest potential. But what happens is we live in a world where we don't listen to that voice. We just listen to the external world. People tell you that your goals are too big or your dreams are unrealistic. People are wired towards the negative, and so they will push that onto you and they will make you believe all of those voices. And so what you just found was that it's not true 100% of the time. Is there another time where your best was good enough?
Um, I did my master's degree and had straight A's the whole
Okay, so that's a second piece. When you think of that, when you start looking for evidence to like go against your old belief and you just found two, how did that make you feel?
time. More empowered, I would say. Especially trying, even if it's where I have to write down more of the good stuff instead of, because when we talk about stuff, it's I always lean to this one happened or this didn't go as planned, and not this, okay, well, this is what I had to do. I'm not overthinking it. It's just this is what it is.
Yeah. And a really important piece of this process is that the pieces of evidence that you find don't need to be these like life altering situations. They could be so small. So I'll give you an example. If there's someone who's working on creating more an abundance mindset around money, maybe they've always struggled around money. They feel like they're always chasing money, like money is hard to find. Then if you're trying to create a new belief that money is abundance, that money is easy to make, and you start looking for evidence of that, you could go for a walk. And I actually do this sometimes. And you see a 10 cents on the floor and you pick it up and you can tell yourself, see, money is everywhere. Money is abundant. Yeah, it's only a 10 cents, but that's evidence. And it could be a tiny piece of evidence. So if we were to look at even just today, what is one tiny piece of evidence that you can see confirms that your best was good enough?
I showed up to work.
Yeah. That's that's not something that we
Yeah,
have to just kind of push aside. You did show up
right.
for work, right?
Yeah, I showed up for this. Even being like like allowing myself to be at that vulnerable state.
Yeah. Just the fact that you showed up for this coaching call and you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to want to change. Like, you have no idea how few people will actually do something like this. Because to be willing to say, okay, I have blind spots and it will require going through some discomfort in order to change, but this is important to me, that right there, you're ahead of the game. So, yeah, your best is good enough. And so, notice now how when you're saying to your brain, hey, this is not true, it's not true 100% of the time, and let me show you why it's not true. Now, you're starting to build up a case, like, see yourself as a lawyer. You're starting to
Mhm.
build up a case for this new belief. And so, what do you think would happen if you were to start doing this consistently? You were to start noticing every time that your best was good enough, and you start showing yourself grace, and you stopped focusing on all the things that you're doing wrong and focused on the things that you're doing right. What do you think would happen maybe like over the span of 3 months?
I would probably be happier in where I am and actually believe that I am doing my best.
Mhm. And do you think that you would be more or less likely to create positive changes in your life?
More likely.
Okay. So the reason why I ask that is because we tend to believe that if we hold on to these negative bullying voices, then we are going to be sticking to our goals and we're going to be motivated to change. And so when you actually look and when you think about being kind to yourself, is there any part of you and of your nervous system that says like, oh, but what if I'm kind to myself and I'm just going to be complacent and I'm not going to want to change?
No, I haven't had that one. Because I've been putting in so much work over the past like 7 months that I don't think I would want to go backwards instead of forward.
Okay. Okay, great. So I want to bring you back to this process. So first step is to identify your belief. Second step is to challenge it. And so it's to ask yourself, is this true 100% of the time? And then the third piece is if it's not true 100% of the time, let's find some evidence to when this isn't true. And you should write down as much as you can, big or small, because if you, and you can even draw out those two jars, old belief, new belief, and like you can visually start to imagine yourself putting new tokens of belief, of evidence into this new jar. Because this old jar is really heavy. And what we want to do is we want to make this second jar heavier so that eventually it becomes heavier than the old one that you used to have. So then I want you to ask yourself, step 4 is what will my life look like if I hold on to my old story? So imagine yourself a year from now. If you hold on to the belief in the story that even your best is not good enough, what will it cost you a year from now?
It could cost me my relationship. It could cost me probably my job. Um, and possibly just even where I'm living. Um, doing everything by yourself is hard. And then when you can't do it, it's trying not to get back to those beliefs that I once had.
And how would it impact your self esteem, your sense of self worth, your experience in your own body and in your own mind if you were to be here with the same belief a year from now?
I would be disappointed in myself, 100%, because I don't want to be where I was last year at this time.
Mhm. And do you feel like where you are now is similar to where you were last year?
It's a little bit better, but it's not fully there. So
Okay.
there's a lot that's the same, but there's a lot that has changed as well.
Okay.
But
And
they like this limiting belief is like the big one that I cannot or have not been able to like figure out.
mhm. Did you know, like before this call, that this was such a heavy limiting belief?
No, I did not.
Okay. So even just the fact that you were able to have that awareness today is going to be the key so that you can walk into the door and start seeing, okay, what do I want to do about this? What do I want to change? So the reason why I ask you, what's the consequence? What will happen? What will it cost you to hold on to this belief and to not do the work to change it? Is because human beings are driven by two things. They're driven away from pain and towards pleasure. And so there's some people who are driven more away from pain, and that's the majority of people, which is why if you look at the news, why is it that all of the headlines focus on fear mongering and they focus on danger and they want to grab your attention? Is because human beings are literally wired for survival. And so anything that is a threat, and we don't see it as like, oh my God, this headline about inflation it's a threat to my survival, but you feel that stress. And that stress is registered by your nervous system as there is a threat to your survival, even though you're not actually being chased by a lion in a jungle, but it's in our wiring, it's in our biology. So we're driven away from pain and towards pleasure. And so when you're working on breaking a habit or creating a new goal or creating a new life, it's really important to ask yourself, like, what's the cost of not changing? What is the cost of holding on to this belief? Where am I going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, going into the future? Because most humans are looking at life in the short term, a week, a month, maybe even a year. But we're not really looking at, okay, what's going to be the compound effect of thinking this way, of behaving this way when I'm 80 years old? And so what is going to be the consequence, the cost of holding on to this belief? And then the next question, I can't remember. I think we're at step 1, 2, 3. I think we're at step 4 or 5. 4. Do I want to hold on to this old belief? Because then it's a choice. You get to hold on to it. You get to decide, because I'm not going to lie to you, it's easier to hold on to an old belief because it's already in your system. It's operating on autopilot. To choose to have a different belief is going to require you to be conscious and to make that awareness and that conscious effort. So, do you want to hold on to that old belief?
No.
Okay. Next step, what is the new belief that I'm giving my brain? What is the new belief? What is the new story? Because it really is a story. Like, a belief is simply a story that you've told yourself enough times. Stories can be true or they can be false. So, what is the new story that I want to tell myself?
That I am doing the best I can with what I have.
Okay. And this belief, you get to evolve it. You get to change it. You've been on the spot today. So if you get off and you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I could think of a better one, or maybe there's one that resonates more with me.
Yeah.
You have the full authority to do that. But just asking yourself, okay, what's the new reframed belief that I'm going to hold on to? And then I want you to ask yourself, what will my life look like a year from now? What doors open up for me when I do think this way, when this is my new story?
Right. Yeah. Um, Especially with my nephews, just being better for them to where I could play more, chase them around. They're 3 and 4, 4 and 5, something like that. Um, but like right now, I can't like go and chase after them just to play, and I want to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
changing this mindset is going to allow me to be better for them.
Yeah. Amazing. So then the last step is, what is an action step that I can take every day? And this could be, you journal on this, you have a reminder on your phone, you have like post-its, like a visual reminder of some sort, or it could be you look in the mirror and you tell affirmations, like whatever works for you. It could be meditation that you can do on the daily. Now, this does not mean you have to do a journaling session for 30 minutes, but something that you can do consistently on the daily in order to reinforce this new belief.
Journaling is definitely a big step for me, to write everything down. And then even I am a sticky note queen of just putting a sticky note up like on my desk of, hey, go take your walk before lunch or go take it after lunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to give you some actionable ways to journal on this. So usually the best time to do this is either in the morning or at night, right when you get up or right where you're about to go to bed, because that's when your mind is the most open to suggestions. That's where your subconscious mind is starting to kick in. You're about to go to sleep or you just woke up. You don't have all of the baggage from the day that's in your system. So I want you to write down this new belief for yourself. And then I actually suggest that you do this at the end of the day. I want you to write down 3 ways, 3 wins that you can associate to this new belief. So 3 ways in which this belief manifested for you that day. And some days are going to be better than others. There's going to be some days where you're like, today was a terrible day and I can't think of a single one. And then those days are really fun because your brain is going to go to work to find like the smallest piece of evidence. You're going to be like, well, I woke up on time. I woke up when my alarm went off and that was good enough. And it's going to force you to start looking for evidence of this new belief. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So with this whole process, now what are you present to? What comes up for you?
What do you mean by that?
So when you think about the power that you could have by
Mhm.
doing this, not just with this one belief, you could do this you can do this process with any limiting belief, any negative belief that is making you feel like shit about yourself, that is holding you back from achieving goals. When you think about the power of doing this and what you can do with it, what comes up for you and how does it make you feel?
It makes me feel a little bit nervous, but also at the same time, um, it makes me feel like being more mindful is what I need to do, even if I'm also one that, like, during the day, if something good happens, like, I sometimes have to write it down right away just so I actually remember it at the end of the day.
So you mentioned something, you said it makes me a little nervous. What do you
Mhm.
think? Where do you think that's coming from?
I think it's more just because 'cause I've tried to change so much that it's just this nervousness of, am I gonna succeed? Am I gonna follow through? Um, but it also, like, is exciting at the same time. Like, I don't think it's, like, a bad type of nervous. I think it's more like, I wanna put in this work regardless of what everybody else thinks,
Hmm.
and I wanna do it for myself. But it makes me nervous to look for some of the good stuff when everything else is not the greatest. Like, you watch the news, it's like everything's negative.
Hmm.
Go outside or go to the store. You have people fighting for no reason. But I know it's doable.
Yeah, it is so doable. And when you start tuning in to how certain aspects and certain external things make you feel, then you get to start protecting your boundaries and protecting your peace. So, for example, for me, watching the news, reading the news, it is out of my life because I like to be informed. And I know that anything that's important going on in the world, I will know about it. I don't need to read the news in order to be informed on that.
Mhm.
And so, yes, there are a lot of negative things going on in the world, but there's also a lot of positive things going on in the world. And so when you get to choose your internal state and you get to choose how you want to feel, if you feel like shit, it's not going to change anything that's going on outside. It's not going to make things better. It's a lot harder to change the world when you feel like crap about yourself,
Right.
right? And I know and it's tough, right? You're going against the current, you're going against the norm. But I know I do a lot of work on myself and I have really wired my mindset towards the positive. And I would have never been able to help you and to help all the women I've helped in my business and in my programs if I didn't do this work. Because when you feel like you have so much to work on yourself, you can't give to the world. So when you do this work on yourself and you start focusing on that, you're also going to have a ripple effect on the people around you, and you will make the world a better place.
Yeah, that sounds a different perspective is what is next.
Yeah. And there is so much more that we could have covered today, but
Oh yeah.
Mindset is like a Pandora's box. Like once you open it, you could go on for hours. And this is really this is the meat of like what I love doing the most, because it's such a blind spot for so many people. Like people will come into coaching calls with me and they'll be like, I'm struggling with this. And it's like, you think you're struggling with this, but if we peel the onion, there is something much deeper going on. So as we wrap up this coaching session, is there any questions that you have for me or any last thoughts?
No, just that I'm excited to kind of implement some of this stuff that we talked about, and even just re-listening to it again to catch some of the stuff that I probably missed.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and appreciate you for being so open and willing to be coached. Like that's such a big piece of it, because if you're willing to be coached, there's nothing that you can't achieve, truly. So thank you so much for being here, Erica.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Ooh. Well, there you have it. We unpacked a lot during that coaching session. And if you were sitting there listening and thinking, oh my goodness, this is me. I'm so negative to myself. I have a lot of blind spots. I keep self-sabotaging and I don't know why, or I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to get out of this. And I know that I need support because I can't do this on my own. Then I invite you to book a free food freedom breakthrough call with me, where we can talk about your challenges, your goals, where you're getting stuck, and if you'd be a right fit to join my program and to get the coaching, the support, the membership that you need in order to finally heal your relationship with food, with your body, and with yourself. So I have dropped that link to book a call with me in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that I connect with you soon, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.